Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Pasadena and to our Centennial Square. I'm Terry Tornick, Mayor of Pasadena, and it's my distinct pleasure to welcome you here today. Pasadena identifies public service as a hallmark of our community. Whether it's serving on a city commission or volunteering with one of our 1,100 nonprofit organizations, Pasadena places a high value on public service and celebrates all that serve. So today, on the 100th anniversary of the end of World War I, it is entirely fitting that we celebrate the service of our veterans here in front of our iconic City Hall. Therefore, it's my privilege to welcome all of you here today on behalf of the residents of Pasadena to recognize Veterans Day 2018. Our thanks to the people who have organized this event, and thank you all for coming. We will now have the color guard for the Blair High School Junior ROTC move ahead. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Let me now introduce Bill Thompson, former Mayor Bill Thompson, Chairman of the organizing committee of this event. Bill. And of course, we have the requisite certificate from the city of Pasadena. This is a proclamation which recounts many of the things I've already said. But in the final whereas clause, I'd like to just read that it says, "It is therefore fitting that we honor all Americans who have served in the military and that we encourage those who will serve our nation in the future. Now therefore, I, Terry Tornick, Mayor of the City of Pasadena, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby proclaim November 11th, 2018 as Veterans Day in the City of Pasadena and reaffirm the deep appreciation of a grateful community for the patriotism, sacrifice, and service of all of our veterans."
Thank you very much, Mayor Tornick. We appreciate the proclamation. We appreciate your presence, and not to say we don't. We certainly do also appreciate your service in the military. So that's very important. One of the things I wanted to just say is introducing myself a little bit here. I spent a couple years of my life in the U.S. Army stationed over in Germany, and I was a platoon leader of an engineering company assigned to the 3rd Infantry Division. At that time, we were in critical, not warfare, but concern and nervousness about the Russians. And so my responsibilities if the Russians came across a certain line was to go detonate, that is, blow up some bridges, lay minefields, etc. And so I said to myself, okay, time to start growing up here and get serious about life. And so it changed my life considerably and for the better, and for that I'm extremely grateful. So let me now introduce Father Anthony Tony Gomez, who is going to do our invocation today. He's the newly installed pastor at St. Philip's the Apostle Church on South Hill Street in Pasadena. He brings his teaching experience and background to his new job with his family's roots in the San Gabriel Valley dating back to the 1890s. He has decided to be here as the 8th pastor of St. Philip's the Apostle Church. We're happy to have him with us this morning to lead us in our invocation. So.
I think it's appropriate to stand to pray, if we can. If we bow our heads now. Almighty God, be with us as we come together today to pay tribute, to honor those veterans who've served and who are serving in our armed forces. We're grateful for their dedication and commitment, for the many selfless acts they performed so that we might continue to enjoy freedom. We thank them this morning for their service to us, to our families, to our communities, and to our country. Lord, watch over our veterans. Bless them with wholeness and love. Shelter them, heal their wounds, comfort their hearts, and grant them peace. We also remember that many of their friends sacrificed their lives in battles of the wars that have been fought. We remember these men and women with great reverence and thanksgiving. And so, Lord, as we honor our veterans and entrust them to your care, pray that their dedication, their sacrifice, will be remembered from generation to generation as a blessing to our nation. Amen.
You may be seated. The next item on our agenda is to have me introduce Monet Bonaris, who is going to sing our national anthem. And let me just share a few words about Monet. She's a very special person, a singer, songwriter, and musician whose grandfather, Marion Meredith Beale, was the first African-American to serve at the U.S. Marine Corps National Headquarters in Washington, D.C. during the Second World War, and an original member of the Montford Point Marine Association, an organization of African-American U.S. Marines. Monet is the founder of the nonprofit organization Monet Cares, and she is a former Miss Los Angeles County. So welcome, Monet.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free
Again, you may be seated, please. It's now my distinct honor and pleasure to introduce Congresswoman Judy Chu. We probably all know this, but the Congresswoman represents the 27th District of California. And just in this past election recently, well, we've had a lot of controversy in different election races and all that. She happened to win re-election by a mere 78% of the votes, so good to have you with us.
Thank you. Well, I am so honored to be here today to celebrate and support our veterans and active service members. This Veterans Day is particularly significant because it falls on the 100th anniversary of the end of World War I, which was one of the ugliest wars in history. Soldiers in that war endured the worst of trench and chemical warfare, and they did it because that is what this country asked of them. So, first, let me say to those of you who are or were members of our armed services, you sacrificed so much for us so that we could enjoy our freedom as a nation. We cannot thank you enough for what you've done for our country. So can all of you please stand so that we can give you a huge round of applause? Every Veterans Day, I think about my father and what his time in uniform meant to him. My father served in the Army during World War II as a radio communications sergeant in Okinawa. It was a life-changing experience for him, and even though he passed away at the age of 91, up until his last day, one of the things that he was proudest of in his life was of his service to his country. And so when I think of that brave choice to serve, I think of the countless individuals and their families who made that sacrifice. It's incumbent on us to honor them and to make sure that they are taken care of when they come home. And that is why I want to make sure that they get the health care that they need. And of course, we face an issue here with regard to that. The San Gabriel Valley in the area from Pasadena to Pomona is home to more than 45,000 U.S. veterans who've served our country honorably, and yet there is no veterans healthcare clinic in our area. Because of that, our veterans have been forced to make long trips to clinics outside our region to obtain treatment for service-connected injuries or post-traumatic stress disorder. And that is why it's been a priority of mine to correct this problem and bring a veterans health clinic to the San Gabriel Valley. Even though we've had some setbacks over the last few years, I'm happy to tell you that we've made significant progress. Recently, the VA did commit to having such a clinic, and they have laid out their plans for both a short-term and a long-term solution. In fact, I arranged for them to have a town hall with veterans in August, at which time they laid out their plans. In the short term, the VA will establish a temporary clinic that will serve around 3,000 veterans. Their long-term plan is a larger permanent clinic that will serve over 5,000 veterans and is targeted to open in 2022. Once completed, both the temporary and permanent clinics will include primary care and mental health care services, and additional services will be added as the needs of the community are assessed. I am happy to report that just 2 days ago, I talked to the VA, and they told me that they have identified a location. They have ordered equipment, and they've begun the process to hire staff. It is my hope that within months, this clinic will open and veterans will finally get the health care that they need and deserve. On the battlefield, the military pledges to leave no soldier behind. As a nation, we must promise that when they return home, we leave no veteran behind. We must fulfill our commitment to our troops and their families. It's the least we can do for those who've done so much for us. Thank you for honoring our veterans today and every day. And I'd like to present my certificate of congressional recognition to the Pasadena Veterans Day Committee. Every year they have put on this event and have done such a marvelous job. And of course, Bill Thompson has been at the head of this effort. Thank you, Bill Thompson and the committee, for doing such a marvelous job. Thank you.
Thank you very much, excuse me, Congresswoman Chu. That's greatly appreciated. Now I want to introduce Senator Anthony Portantino, who is here, and I understand he may have a proclamation or something to present to us and a few words to say, representing one of the Senate districts from the state of California. So good to have you here, sir. Welcome.
Good morning. It is indeed an honor to be here, and I want to give a special shout out to Congresswoman Chu, who has been fighting for veterans in the San Gabriel Valley for a long time. So please, let's give her a big round of applause, because it is right and important to do to the men and women who serve our country to respect that service and how we treat them when they come back. And I want to give a shout out to the mayor, who's a veteran as well. So let's give a round of applause for Mayor Tornick and the whole city of Pasadena and everybody who put this on today, from the firefighters who are cooking to all of the young people. How about all those ROTC young people out there? Let's give them a big round of applause for being here as well. And then you saw all the veterans who stood up and were appropriately recognized. If you're sitting next to one, reach out and shake hands and say thank you for your service. And if they're not a veteran next to you, introduce yourself. Share the moment today. Thank a veteran, but introduce yourself to your neighbor, because what affects one of us affects all of us. And clearly, when we saw the tragedy in Thousand Oaks the other day and those who rushed in to protect others, what affects one of us affects all of us. And the brave women and men who fight for our country answer that call every day. Something that struck me last year is I actually have a Army reservist on my staff, a young woman named Yvette Kim. And she told me when she was going through basic training, her drill sergeant said to her group of trainees, he said, look around. You're all going to get the greatest training of any military in the world. You're all going to answer the call to service, but not all of you are going to come back. And she then shared with me that even though she's been in the Army for 5 years, some of the folks she went through basic training have not come back. And to me, that struck home, because here was a young woman wanting to serve her country, wanting to serve California, undeterred by that story by her drill sergeant. And so I'm just here to respect the veterans who fight and serve our country, the families of the veterans who also are affected by whether it's PTSD, finding a job, finding a career, being respected when you come home. And it's wonderful to be part of the Pasadena family that does it right and says thank you to our brave men and women who fight and serve our country. So thank you very much, and God bless America.
Thank you very much, Senator Portantino. We now have, I need to introduce Roberto Alvarez, or Robert Alvarez, I think he prefers to be called by, who works in the office of Los Angeles County Supervisor Catherine Barger. And we must not lose sight of the fact that our flyover today might not even exist but for the office of Supervisor Catherine Barger, which found the money to pay for that.
On behalf of Supervisor Catherine Barger and the 5th Supervisorial District, I'd like to thank all of you for taking the time to fittingly come to Centennial Square and celebrate the 100th anniversary of this day that celebrates the legacy of service members and just shows us that there's a community out there that even when we come home as vets, there's people willing to support us. So I appreciate Bill Thompson and the committee for taking the time to just helping us remember that. And on behalf of Supervisor Catherine Barger, I present this scroll to Bill Thompson and the committee for helping put this event together.
Thanks so very much. Well, thank you very, very much for that. That's really wonderful. We have some important people here to be introduced today, and I don't have cards for all of them, I'm sure, but I've got one from Justin Anderson, a colonel, U.S. Marine Corps, battalion instructor. Stand, please, and let us recognize you. Okay, there he is back there. Thank you. We've got Anne Marie Higginbottom, who is here representing State Representative Chris Holden. Teresa Lamb Simpson is here, and she is representing Congressman Adam Schiff. And we've got Michael Johnson here, a U.S. Marine retired, Western Region Vice President, and National Montford Point Marine Association. Now we also have Jean Masuda, a member of the Pasadena City Council here. John Kennedy, who is the Vice Mayor of the City of Pasadena. And I'm sure there are others here as well, but I unfortunately do not have any cards for you or any way to recognize you, and so I apologize if I'm omitting somebody. It's certainly not the intention, so we're grateful for having everyone come and be a part of today. So now we have the anthems to be played for the Army, the Marines, the Navy, the Air Force, and the Coast Guard, and vets are asked to stand for their particular branch when you hear the music being played. So. Thank you very much. If we have any Gold Star families, I'd like to ask them also, please, to stand and be recognized, and we can give you some applause. Okay. Next, it's my pleasure to introduce to you our main speaker for this day's event, Commander Corey A. Poorman, who is a graduate with distinction as a Trident Scholar from the United States Naval Academy in 1999 with a Bachelor of Science in Mechanical Engineering. He has served on a number of sea tours as well as shore tours. He reported to the USS Pasadena, our submarine, in October of 2017 as the submarine's 14th commanding officer. Now, one thing I should say is that the USS Pasadena was commissioned in February of 1989. I happened to be the mayor of the city at that time. It was my pleasure to be back there and take part in the commissioning of that submarine. So it was really a distinct honor and something I'll never forget having had the opportunity to do. But the submarine has been placed a number of places, probably every part of the Pacific Ocean and elsewhere around the world. So Commander Poorman is authorized to wear the Meritorious Service Medal with 2 gold stars, the Navy Commendation Medal with 4 gold stars, the Navy Achievement Medal with 3 gold stars, and various unit awards. So join me, please, in welcoming Commander Corey Poorman.
Good morning, Congressman Chu, Mary Tornick, Mr. Thompson, Veterans Day Committee, distinguished guests, Pasadena Foundation, honored veterans, and most importantly, the families of our veterans. I am truly honored and humbled to be here to speak with you today. Before I begin, I ask us to say a small prayer for all those impacted by the ongoing wildfires and for all those risking their lives fighting the fires. We hope for everyone's safety and well-being during this challenging time. Mr. Thompson, thank you for that kind introduction. You make me seem almost as cool as Gerard Butler in our newest submarine movie, Hunter Killer, although my wife and daughters out there probably would say otherwise. It is a true honor to be here to speak on this 100th anniversary of the end of World War I, an armistice that was signed on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month in 1918. It is awe-inspiring to think about all the conflicts that our veterans have served in since World War I. In World War II, Korean War, Vietnam, Desert Storm, the ongoing War on Terror, let alone the Cold War, our conflict in Panama, Somalia, and many other areas around the globe. This day, the day in which every year we recognize our veterans for their sacrifice and service to our country, is a day we should all cherish. I have the unique privilege of being assigned as a commanding officer of your city's fantastic ship, the USS Pasadena, a Los Angeles-class fast-attack submarine, and the 3rd ship to bear the great name of Pasadena. I want you to know how proud you should be of your sailors and the ship as they just returned from an arduous deployment less than a month ago. Their performance, commitment, and tenacity in the face of adversity and dedication to duty was truly inspiring and was in keeping with the honor traditions of the previous ships which bore the name Pasadena and of the veterans who have gone before us. To the city of Pasadena, the Pasadena Foundation, and the entire community, on behalf of my crew, I thank you for your 29-plus years of support to not only my crew, but to our families. We would not be able to continue the Fighting Frumpy legacy without you. And to the city of Pasadena and Tournament of Roses, on behalf of all veterans, I thank you for your dedicated commitment to all veterans and your support throughout these years. I would like to begin with a little background on the history of Veterans Day, so bear with me. Veterans Day began on November 11, 1919 as Armistice Day when declared by President Woodrow Wilson, a day to celebrate the end of World War I and to honor those who had perished in the Great War. Congress then passed a resolution in June 1926 requiring a presidential proclamation every year. and then it was established as a federal holiday in May 1938. Following World War II, Raymond Weeks, a World War II veteran, led the effort to make Armistice Day a national holiday to honor all who have served in the nation's military. And on June 1st, 1954, President Eisenhower officially established Veterans Day. This formal establishment is an example of our nation's greatness, a greatness which lies in our ability to honor the countless men and women who have served in the military, bonded in the ideals of service, selflessness, and honor. As we stand here today, I'd like to brief a few statistics. There are over 16 million veterans who have served in at least one war. 5 million veterans have served in peacetime. 2 million of our veterans are women. 7 million veterans have served during the Vietnam War. There are over 2 million veterans in the state of California, and there are almost 5,000 veterans in the city of Pasadena alone. Webster's defines a veteran as a former member of the armed forces or an old soldier of long service. After 19 plus years, I think many of my sailors would put me in that latter category. As I look at this definition, I often reflect on define soldier. What does that mean? What about our spouses, children, community, parents, city support, etc.? For us veterans know that those we leave behind face as many challenges and hardships as we do. And then only through our commitment to each other, our community, and our country do we persevere. For veterans, the nation was important enough to endure long separations from family, miss the births of children, miss holidays, anniversaries, and many more events. Our spouses endure career interruptions, frequent changes of address, and disproportionate share of parental family responsibilities. Military children often deal with changes in schools, separation from friends, and hardest of all, the uncertainty of the next deployment. These brave parents, spouses, children, our neighbors and friends, they are the unsung heroes, walking in step with their veteran, and are as selfless, dedicated, and committed to America and freedom as their veteran spouse. In the background is often a fantastic community of friends and neighbors, selflessly there to help when needed, lend a shoulder to cry on, and support our military families through separation. I thank you, all of our veteran families, and honor you today for your quiet, distinguished, and often recognized service to your nation. I thank the communities such as Pasadena, which support our veterans and families through all the challenges, never seeking credit or notoriety, just being there with kindness, generosity, and friendship. This defines the word community and enables us veterans to serve our country. I would like all the family members of veterans to please stand and be recognized. Got a flyover? Okay. Fewer than 10% of Americans can claim the title veteran, and less than 1% of our population are currently serving today. With such a small proportion of the society serving, one might ask, what does being a veteran mean in today's ever-connected society, and is it really different than any other job? I'll tell you what it means to me and what I see on a day-to-day basis. It is my Command Master Chief, Matt Kwasinski, leading and mentoring the next generation of warriors, professionally and personally. It is a 20-year-old Fireman Rodriguez driving a submarine in places I can't talk about in the most challenging conditions in the world. It is my engineer officer, Pete Blade, fighting to keep the ship at sea so we can get the job done. These are just a few of your fellow Americans from all backgrounds, from all areas of the country, from all walks of life, who truly represent the best of what we can be as Americans. Yes, this job is different. For veterans, we see a brother, a sister, and a fellow service member. I ask you to please look up and observe our flyover. Please be seated. This commitment of veterans to each other and the ability to work together for a common goal no matter the challenge, this is what your veterans bring back to the community. These men and women out here who have served their nation do not know how to fail. As I near the closing of my remarks, I urge you to reflect on President Kennedy's statement regarding our veterans. As we express our gratitude, we must never forget that the highest appreciation is not to utter words, but to live by them. I ask you to pray for the tens of thousands of America's finest men and women deployed around the world today, protecting and defending Americans' freedom. They will be there when we are sleeping at home tonight. They will be there every Saturday, Sunday, and holiday this year. They are there around the clock, far from our shores, defending America at all times. Finally, before we go our separate ways, I want to leave you with this. As you look upon the American flag, which is so prominently displayed here, be proud of what it represents, our freedom, and never forget those who have served under her colors, defending and preserving freedom. As you look at the red, white, and blue, be reminded that each color represents the valor, vigilance, and perseverance found in the heart of every United States service member and veteran. May God bless our veterans. May God bless all of us gathered here today. May God bless the more than 300 million Americans who call this great nation home. May God bless our United States Navy and all branches of our armed forces. And may God continue to bless America. Thank you.
We'll have our Blair trumpeters play in just one moment, but before we do that, I just wanted to thank Commander Poorman for being with us, for obviously an excellent talk and very stimulating and very moving, and we're very appreciative of that. As a small token of our recognition and appreciation for you, there is supposed to be a football game next Saturday, played at the Rose Bowl. These two schools, University of Southern California and the University of California at Los Angeles, are playing each other. Of course, one might argue that this year they're not either as a football team, but that aside, they're going to be there, and we would be delighted to give you 4 tickets to that event, plus a parking pass down there. So, thank you so much. All right, thank you. There the music. Yeah. Great. Okay, the Blair trumpeters, Sergeant Turner. Okay, thank you so very much. As we bring our Veterans Celebration to a conclusion here today, let me give very special thanks to all of our Veterans Committee members. Without the help of the committee, there's no way in the world that this would have happened today, and so I'm very grateful for all of you for your help and really appreciate that. We look forward to hopefully another opportunity next year to do exactly the same thing. I also want to give a very special thanks to the Condon Squadron Flyover, which we've had 2 times already, maybe a 3rd time coming here. And to the Office of Supervisor Catherine Barger for providing the money necessary to make this happen. And so we're very grateful for that. It's made a world of difference. I also want to thank you and congratulate the Blair High School Color Guard that's been performing this morning, rather. Okay. And also the two Blair High School trumpeters that we just heard from here did so very, very well. So we finally, certainly not least, to thank the Pasadena firefighters and Farmer John's for the hot dogs we're going to all be able to enjoy in just a moment. So go out there, get a hot dog, some water or whatever else they may be having to drink. Enjoy that, and that'll be great. So thank you so very much. We hope to see you again 1 year from today.